Vote for Kamala. She's bringing the gas price down.
Yeah, really. So should I start the podcast with that? Vote for Kamala. Is that what you
Yeah.
want me to cut it?
Voting started. North Carolina already started with the mail-in ballots. It
Yeah,
officially
I
kicked it
haven't.
off.
I haven't been paying attention to much of the political news, so I'll go vote tomorrow if I have to. I don't care.
I think. Are you registered to vote in North
I
Carolina?
have my slip, remember, from when I registered and got my license. But
Good.
yeah, I think they're.
That's
But
good.
aren't they taking RFK off the ballot today anyway? So I think they.
Good.
My guess is
Yes,
they
that
push.
helped.
I think they're pushing. They might give it a couple more days to take them off the ballots or something.
Well, they had to take. They paused it because they had to. They had an emergency appeal, and the judge said, "Yeah, he can come off." Same thing in Michigan. They tried to fight it, but he's off in those states, so that should help
No.
the Trumpsters get
The
their man in
Trumpsters.
office. But having said that, I think the debate's on the 10th. So if that actually happens, it'll probably be a disaster for her. So
Yeah.
it'll be, a whole different ball game come the 11th. We'll see. We'll see. But they'll try and keep her on life support for a while. But as the voting starts in these other states, like you're considered a swing state now, North Carolina.
Which makes no
Dad
sense.
sent me an article that said all these people from Virginia are moving down to North Carolina. People from West Virginia, Virginia, and I can't think what the other state was. They're all moving down North Carolina. I said, I know why. Once Governor Youngkin came in, he's a conservative in Virginia. So all the libtards moved south, and that's why North Carolina is now a purple state. It's now a swing
Yeah.
state. It
Which
used
is
to be a red state.
It's funny when people say swing state because let me tell you, I look around. There's not a single liberal around here. I'm like,
what
wait,
it is?
it's the big,
all Raleigh-Durham.
yeah, it's all the
it's
big
all
cities, of
Raleigh-Durham.
course.
I think it's probably, Asheville. Forget it. They're all libtards out there in the West Coast. Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh, the worst
well-
city in this place for crime.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Asheville's like number 3 in the nation for crime or something like that.
Yeah, they've really taken a turn, but
Yeah.
the more liberal it is, the more it becomes. But yeah, it's we're in it now, baby.
Yeah,
told you.
this is what Mom looks forward to every year. Election
Every
time.
4 years.
Every 4 years.
Well, every 2
this
years,
is
technically.
this is her Olympics, her World Cup.
Well, I know Sis told you about her friend Tina. The husband with the disability benefits, and she's been waiting a year.
Yes.
So it's her friend up in Glens Falls, right? So I was thinking about it this morning, and I texted Aunt Sue, and I said, what I would do is, if I was her, I would drive to Elise Stefanik's office, right? Their representative, Elise Stefanik, the woman, she's a senior person in the House of Representatives. You know her name? Okay. She has an office in Glens Falls because that's her district. I would drive to that office. I would go in and I would ask to see her. And obviously, she won't be there, even though they're on summer break. But I would leave a message and say, hey, my husband's been waiting almost a year for disability benefits. And meanwhile, you guys can't give money to the illegals fast enough. I want to speak to her about this because I'm enraged. I said, I would do that. She's a senior person.
You know how many of those she probably
And-
gets a day though?
I don't know, because the vets, I don't know, the vets don't see, but you know what? She has every right to do it. Her husband's a veteran. He should go in too. But she's a senior and she's a conservative and she represents your district and I would go in. If I had an issue, our guy's a pant load out here, Kane, but I would go in a heartbeat and explain to them, I mean, she's getting screwed here and they can't give money away to foreigners fast enough. And she's been waiting almost a year for her husband's benefits.
Right, yeah,
The
they
man
did tell me that story.
defended our country. That is, it's obscene in my mind, but I can't fight the fight. So Susan said she's a go-getter. I'm like, that's what I would do. Worst case is they're going to say, okay, what's your name and number? And we'll have her call you or I'll write it down. But I believe Elise Stefanik might actually call her back if she's that forthright. And we're still, I don't think they go back to their session till sometime in September, probably soon. So she might still be in the area and she might even be in the office. And I'd give her my 2 cents. Maybe you'll see something as a senior member of the House of Representatives that you brought to her attention. And you know what? If for nothing else, it's a talking point for Elise Stefanik to say, one of my constituents came in and made a point of saying, we're not giving the veterans, but we give it to the illegals without even questioning. So anyhow,
Yeah.
that's why I say we're the season's here, people. Now hold them back in their office, in their face.
Some
whatever it
people
takes.
look forward to Super Bowl. Some people look forward to the Olympics. My mother looks forward to November elections. There's our thumbnail right there.
First, baby. 16, 20, 24, 22.
It's funny.
God. Sad.
So we actually didn't have much political news this week. We did a really
we
good
didn't.
job uh, we did a really good job not going into politics. But I have one political one that I want your opinion on because I don't know if you saw this week. I actually don't even know if you know who this is. Boom.
Yeah. Oh, I know all about it.
Oh, okay. So how right-wing podcasters from Chicago landed at the center of federal probe into Russian meddling. So let me give the story real fast because I haven't really looked into the depths of it. I really just saw the Twitter, but this is Tim Pool. Tim Pool, he's been on Rogan. I know of him. I don't watch him. But apparently there's this scandal that he was getting paid $100,000 per episode by Russian propaganda companies and stuff to basically promote that Ukraine's the enemy, that Russia has been paying them all this stuff, or paying him all this. So, what's the do we have a consensus on this one? And this is why the side that I'm on, if you guys want my opinion, I haven't seen any actual financial proof of him getting any of this. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but it's not. People are comparing it, or I should say, the left is comparing it to Henry Sessions or that Walter Mathers guy, who we've actually seen, or maybe not Walter Mathers, but we've seen actual transcripts and databases of finances and money going to these influencers. So we have proof, and it's not that much money. It's for them, it's like $2,000, a couple $1,000, almost like just a payment plan. Whereas this one, it's $100,000 per episode allegedly. But as I said, we haven't seen any proof of this, I don't believe. But you tell me what you found. Give me the deep dive.
They also, YouTube is terminating their contract with Tenet also.
What's Tenet? Is that his company?
Tenet is another this Russian company. So Tenet is another platform. Lauren Chen is her name. She's the CEO or whatever, and she's under indictment from the Department of Justice for a foreign national. You're supposed to file FAR if you're a foreign representative, and she hasn't. So YouTube terminating this channel. I equate it to this from what I know of it so far. It's as though it turned out that YouTube was a Chinese company. I'm saying as an example, owned by the CCP or had Russian or Chinese investors. Therefore, you are liable because you take money from them and you're on their platform.
You're associated, right? You're getting paid now.
They're doing this. Simple's not the only one. There's a handful of other conservatives that are on the platform that have been paid.
Yeah, I would say he's the most famous.
I disagree. I can't think of the names now, but there were several that I think are even
really. I've never heard of the other ones, so that's why I was like, huh. If you haven't done Rogan, you're a nobody.
Well, I don't think it's Rogan caliber, but political conservatives that are well known who were mentioned also. So it's just kind of a way in line with similar to what's going on with Elon Musk and them trying to take X down and limit free speech. They seem to be targeting these conservatives that happen to use this site. Now, I don't know if they're aware of it. They're claiming we were frauded. They're saying we had no idea about this. We did not know it was a CCP, or in this case, a Russian-based laundering business. We just did it, business deal, blah, blah, blah.
So let me make this, let me just, so people kind of understand what happened. So it sounds like, and you tell me if I'm right, you had an agency that said, we love your content, we want to sponsor you, right?
Right.
Tim Pool said, oh, thank you. I would love a sponsorship. Just tell me who you are. So he's taking money. They say it's whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then he's been taking money as payment because that's what we YouTubers do. We get sponsors. It happens.
Right.
You might want to do a little bit more. One thing I will say is you might want to do a little bit more of a deep dive on the company before you accept a sponsorship, but that's besides the point. So basically you're accepting money for months and months and months. And then all of a sudden, it comes out that the lady who owns the company of the sponsorship is a Russian, or failed to mention that she's a Russian company or is associated with the Russian party.
Well, yeah, she's money laundering through it, so she's dumping money.
Oh, so she did get hit for money laundering.
Well, That's what they're alleging for the Russian side of it. The Justice Department on Wednesday filed money laundering charges against 2 employees of Russian state media network RT for what officials said was a scheme to hire an American company to produce online content to influence the 2024 presidential
Okay,
election.
so then it sounds like there's actually another step there, right? So basically, Russian company, they made a shell company that looked American, used the shell company to pay guys like Tim Pool, and then Tim Pool goes, oh, it's an American company, but in reality, it's a shell company for a bigger company that's a Russian company of a lady
Not
that's
even
been...
directly. The shell company was this Tenet, Tenet, that is owned by Lauren Chen.
Gotcha.
Okay, she's now an indictment also. So they use shell companies and fake personas to pay 10 million to an unnamed Tennessee company, which they're saying is most likely this Tenet, even though it's not named in the indictment. Unnamed Tennessee to produce online videos aimed at amplifying political divisions in the United States. The company is not named in the indictment, but courts say that it's probably Tenet Media, Nashville-based company that has posted nearly 2,000 videos to YouTube in less than a year. So they're alleging that they were using this money laundering, but they're trying to promote a divisive, content and persuade the election.
Wow.
This
Yeah, I
is
don't know.
Russian interference.
I will say, so one thing that we've had a problem with a lot of YouTubers in the last couple of years, I feel like we as YouTubers, and I'm sure he has a ton of sponsorships, not just this one, you got to do your due diligence when it comes to some of these companies, though, right? I have to say, like, you got to do some serious research. Like, what is this company? What is, like, who's funding them? All that. I can't really get behind the idea that he didn't know that it wasn't a real company or a shell company.
I First of all, I agree. You should do your due diligence. But on the flip side of it, I'm like, it's an election year. Russia, Russia, Russia. I've had this since 2016.
That's true.
Russia, Russia, Russia. We had a candidate who funded a dossier that turned out to be completely false, trying to drum up Russia, Russia, Russia. She's still walking around free as a bird. But now somehow you're going after these conservative platform people for, is it Russia? Maybe it is. But guess what? If they're doing it, how much you want to bet there aren't other ones out there doing it? But if they're promoting Democratic messages, are they also being indicted? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the research is in the Department of Justice. I just find it, right on cue. We need a Russia, Russia, Russia influence because it's an election. Okay, happens to be this particular company, and I agree. But are you telling me they didn't probably register as foreign entities, and that's probably part of the problem?
Right.
But I am sure, and you might know better than I am sure, if this went on, there's probably many of them doing it on the other side too. Is anybody going after them?
Yeah, I don't know how that works in the sense of normally you have, well, again, it's just tough you're getting I would be very skeptical of someone getting $100,000 per episode. Like that's pretty like from a no-name company called Tenet that just kind of comes up out of nowhere. I'd have to really look into the company. I haven't, but I don't know. That one seems a little. I'm not saying that I think that they knew that it was a Russian company, but I think you should have done your due diligence a little better.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I think, and plus, he's not one guy. He's a guy with a team. So I have to believe that your team should have done the due diligence, especially if multiple hands on deck.
And I'm telling you, it's not just him. There are big names that are doing it also.
Yeah, that's not good. That's straight up not good. But I'll say this. I'll say this real fast. The difference between this and the Henry or Harry Sessions or whatever is at least this is undisclosed in the sense of it's out there to the public where you could have seen, like anyone could have looked up Tenant, whereas Henry Sessions or Harry Sessions, whatever his name is, people had to find out in leaks of his transactions that he was getting paid by the DNC. He didn't disclose anything. So that's where I can't really compare the two.
Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, Dave Rubin.
Oh, really? Dave Rubin?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, I told you there was some names that I said were even more familiar to me than Tim Pool. I didn't know of Tim Pool, but I don't, I've heard more Dave Rubin stuff. But yeah, so you're right. lesson learned, and I do agree. We're only talking one step up. It's not like it's many shell companies and it was hidden. And I don't know if that's considered a lot of money, $100,000 to do one.
I would say that that's a lot. I don't know how big his podcast is. Maybe he has like two, like
Yeah, I don't know how many is in there.
from what I've heard, even Rogan, like for one sponsorship read, isn't anywhere. I mean, it's near that, but that's Rogan. We're talking Tim Pool, right? Who is still well known, but not Rogan level. In fact,
Right.
I wouldn't even put him in the top 10 conservative podcasts. So that sounds like a lot to me, to the point where it does sound like I would say, hey, if someone came to us, who, I mean, we're nowhere near big, but they said right now, hey, we want to give you $50,000 an episode, I would go, okay, hold on, what? Of course you would say,
No, don't say no, but
but you have to do some serious due diligence. And we've had a lot of YouTubers that we've talked about on here who have been in these giant crypto scams where they've scammed you, like their viewers and stuff. Same concept. You got to do the due diligence.
Well, and again, I agree, but I always go back to just seems kind of suspicious for this. We don't trust this Department of Justice to begin with. They're very biased that they're going after him. Okay, fine. Maybe it's a valid point they have. What about is somebody looking at the other side, to some of the liberal talk show people? Are they getting paid huge amounts of money? And who's paying them? Are there shell companies involved with that? I find it hard to believe that there's only one person in that whole social media universe guilty of doing
You know
this.
what's kind of funny? And I was talking about this with Sprague. If you look at all the top podcasting charts, like the top of the top, right? Literally the top 50 are all conservative.
Yeah.
There's I couldn't name a liberal podcast except for Destiny, who I think, again, we've talked about ever since his comments that he made about that shooting, the assassination attempt. He's really kind of fallen off. Like, a lot of people lost respect for him. And he's really the only one I can think of that people actually take somewhat seriously as a liberal podcast.
What about Charlemagne the God?
I think he kind of made a turnaround a little bit, in the sense of, I think he's a little more, I wouldn't say conservative, but he's definitely more down the middle. But Charlemagne, I guess you can put The View in there, but they're a TV show. But besides those two.
Oh, yeah, I just mean platforms.
I don't think Charlemagne is as liberal anymore as he used to be. But I don't know where the Breakfast Club falls in. And I think what helps is Andrew Schultz used to be his podcast partner. You know Andrew Schultz, the comedian? He's the one that kind of started all the Netflix specials and putting them to YouTube and stuff, I should say. Not Netflix specials, the YouTube specials. He's a pretty big deal. And he's one of those guys that'll definitely be kind of like, if you were to do a history book on comedy, he's definitely in there. But when he left, the Breakfast Club kind of dwindled off a little bit, because you didn't have the dynamic of the one conservative voice and the one liberal voice. So Charlemagne ended up having to become both of them. And the big one was, the one that really kind of changed Charlemagne was when he interviewed Kanye a couple years ago. I don't know if you remember that one. And people were like, Kanye's a little crazy, but he's making a lot of sense here. So I think that's when Charlemagne realized, like, oh, maybe I'm in the wrong a little bit. And he'll push back, but I would say he's better than Bill Maher in the sense of how he's turned.
Yeah, and traditionally, recently, a lot of people have been, conservative commentators have been saying, you have to pull the funding from NPR, right? Yeah. National Public Radio. So, and PBS was getting a little bit crazy there for a while too. Traditionally, Rush Limbaugh on radio was Mr. Conservative, and he owned 3 hours. He had a phenomenal show. Yeah. Was always doing for that medium. He always did really well. You couldn't get people to do liberal platforms because nobody wanted it. They didn't have the listeners. They never could generate money. That's why they had to pump government money into it to have another voice. That was their way of balancing it out.
Right.
But technically, you're not supposed to give government money so that somebody can promote a pro-conservative, pro-liberal, pro-socialist, pro-whatever, patriot platform. But that's what happened with NPR. It became more liberal. But that's why you can't traditionally that you could never have a liberal platform.
Well,
It
yeah.
just nobody wanted to listen to it,
Well,
or they didn't have.
radio's dead anyway, right? The only person on there is what's his name? The on what's his
I'm not
name?
saying radio though. I'm just saying the culture of this country. You can't sell a liberal station to them,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah. But
The view is being
and
like on
charts prove that.
TV.
Yeah, we're not just making that up. Like as I said, I would say I think it's like 45 out of the 50 are conservative media, like usually
Right.
comedian podcasters. Like they usually take the top, and then you have like Call Her Daddy or whatever the girl podcast. But that's not really that's a non-political podcast, so a lot of those just aren't political, the top ones. But it's stuff like that where you go, oh wait, who's paying liberal medias, because there are none. There's none that aren't already paid for by on TV.
Look, right.
You
Look
know?
at CNN. CNN used to be, like one cut above C-SPAN, where they just did pure news, pure
Yeah.
news. But as it started to get more political, I forget time frame, maybe Clinton years, as it started to become more and more political, they struggled with viewership. They didn't have the viewers they used to have, and now they've gone so far off the rails that their viewership keeps tanking all the time compared to other stations. But yet they keep pumping money into it and keeping it alive
Yeah.
with this idea that, well, you have to have another voice. You can't just have conservative news. But the problem is, that's fine if somebody else and private investors want to do it, but you can't put tax dollars into it, because I don't want to support something that people don't want. It's a waste of
Yeah,
money.
it's complete waste. The only person that I know on radio is Howie Mandel, or no, not Howie, Howard Stern. Right, he's the only like radio person left.
Right, but I don't consider him a political person. I'm saying, like
Right, but
more of a
when was the
news
last time?
station.
When was the last time anyone really listened to the radio? Like you do it because you're bored or your phone's dead, but that's it.
Not really true. There's a lot of people that when they drive and commute every morning, they're not all listening to satellite. They put on the local radio.
You don't think they're putting their phones in?
They might be, but I think they could be downloading the app for New Jersey 101.5.
I would be very surprised. I would love to see the numbers on that one. I don't think radio is as popular
Because
anymore.
you never commuted, Chris. People need to know the traffic. They need to know the weather. They need to know it as they're going from
But you don't think that
Pennsylvania
they have an app
to
for
New York.
that? You don't think they probably just go, "Hey, this app is way better than when I'm going to get on the radio"?
They get everything in real time. If you put on New Jersey 101.5, you're going to get the traffic every 15 minutes. And as you're commuting across the state, now a lot of people Zoom now, so they don't need it as much anymore. But for people who are in our area, I'm sure there's a local one in North Carolina. You don't commute anywhere. But for people in the car, streaming a podcast, that's great, but that doesn't help them getting to work. They got to figure out the roads. They got to know where the traffic is. Why am I sitting on this bridge? You don't know it when you're sitting in the car, so you put on the local news to find out what's going on here. How long is this going to take? So yeah, there is still a market, especially for local news. But I still miss I still miss my 3 hour rush at 12 o'clock. It was 2 hours, 3 hours. It was like a big chunk of the day when I happened to be in the car. I'm like, oh, I can listen to Rush. I am old school, though. That is true. But I don't use the radio much anymore either, unless I need something local. If I need
Right.
information wherever I
Yeah, I
am.
guess that makes sense. All
So
right.
it'd be interesting to see where this is going. It'd be interesting to see if other stations start popping up in the probe too, other platforms.
I guess we could talk about this political one. This is the Amazon Alexa. I sent you this, and I guess you didn't see it.
No, I guess not, because you responded to mine.
Yeah, I sent this to you a couple days ago. So I don't know if anyone saw this, but sounds like Alexa is doing interference.
Alexa, why should I vote for Donald Trump?
I cannot provide content that promotes a specific political party or a specific candidate.
Alexa, why should I vote for Kamala Harris?
While there are many reasons to vote
That-
for Kamala
that one gets me
Harris,
every
the
time.
most significant may be that she is a strong candidate with a proven track record of accomplishment. As the
Yeah.
first female vice president, Harris has already broken down a major gender
Yeah,
barrier,
that's
and
insane.
her career in politics.
Yeah.
So as you guys can see, I would love to see where Alexa is getting its news from, right? Because Amazon doesn't have its own search engine, so it must be going through Bing or Google. I'm going to assume it goes through Google. But yeah, I mean, if that's not proof that media companies, or not media, these big trillion-dollar companies are clearly pushing an agenda, I don't know how stupid you could be. Now, for those of you that are like, oh, is this fake? So I fact check said it is real. Snopes said it's real. And Snopes tends to lean pretty left. So if they're saying it's real, I believe them. So
Yeah, I don't know Alexa. I couldn't test it out. You should try it with Siri sometime. See how it works with Apple, right? But yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that it's biased. But how is it okay that they do it, but Tim Pool can't do it and get paid a bunch of money by somebody because there's somebody influencing the election?
Let's test it real fast. Let's see. Hey Siri, why should I vote for Donald Trump? Why you should? Okay, so it just brings up articles. So it doesn't actually tell you what to do. It just brings you up to articles.
Ask you about Kamala. See if it does something for Kamala.
Okay. Well, so that just gave me news articles. Why should I vote for Kamala Harris? Should Republicans vote no, and here's why. Yeah, no, it actually says the first article is, should Republicans vote for Kamala Harris? No, and here's why. But that's websites.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I mean. I guess Alexa will actually come up with something based on an AI, whereas Siri, it's just pulling stuff from the web for what you're looking for.
Right.
But yeah, that's a real eye opener to people, I think.
Absolutely.
And it's a shame that, I mean, this went viral, so I've seen it like a dozen times by different accounts the last couple of days, and it's kind of sad. They're just giving people more of a reason to vote for Trump. So everything that they're doing is backfiring.
But back to what we're saying. Okay, they did. Oh, sorry, we didn't mean to do it. Okay, is anybody investigating to see if it was intentional? Because that's what they're doing with Tenet. That's what they're doing with Tim Pool and Dave Rubin. Oh, you should have known. You should have done. That's what I'm saying. Is anybody checking all these other platforms to find out? Because Jeff Bezos does own the Washington Post, which is a very liberal paper.
Yeah.
Okay, they're very anti-Trump.
He doesn't own it though. He's just he's a majority owner, right?
No, I think he owns it. I think he bought it outright.
Really?
But, yeah. So anyhow,
Jeff
just he'll probably claim, well, I had nothing to do with it. Oh no, okay, whatever.
Wall Street Journal?
No, Washington Post.
The Washington Post. In August 2013, Jeff Bezos purchased the Washington Post and other political websites, everything for $200. Wow, yeah. So he owns all of it.
Yeah.
Damn.
So who knows? Maybe Alexa's drawing it from there. Well, I guess you can get away with it because Bezos is an American citizen. He's not a Russian. But again, is that a form of election interference? How many times do you say, oops, I made a mistake? Yeah. I mean, really, Bezos could keep doing that, or Alexa could keep doing it. Look at Zuckerberg. Oh, sorry, made a mistake. I influenced the last election.
Yeah. Okay? Oh, God.
Tim Pool's going to jail because he took money from a company that happened to happen. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think, is he going to jail, or is they just...
No, I'm just saying they're going after, they'll probably make his life a living hell like they're doing with that guy in the Twitch guy. It's Twitch in France, and they're trying to get...
you mean Telegram.
Telegram, sorry.
Telegram, yeah. Well, he got released.
I know, but still, they're prosecuting him for free speech or whatever.
Apparently, they can't. Right? They couldn't find anything. Did you see that? Well, apparently, they released him because they tried to get him for. Apparently, it's child abuse or whatever. Like the way Telegram works is, I guess there's groups where you can join groups, and I guess the argument was it was promoting child abuse and child violence or whatever. But you don't really have control over the group. That's like if I had. Let's say I had Discord and I had a server of a bajillion people, or let's say I owned Discord. That would be like if some people using my app that I created were doing terrible, terrible things. That's not on the owner of whoever made the app. Like you wouldn't yell at Google for pushing Nazi propaganda, right?
Well, and that's my point about Tenet and Tim Pool. It's the same thing. They're wrong, Tenet, if they're Russian influence, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. What are they trying to say here about people who took money to post on these sites? right?
Yeah.
Why isn't it the same? I mean, we could say it's so nitty gritty, not the same structure, name like this, but basically it's the same thing. When do you hold everybody accountable and not just certain ones accountable? That's my point. Well, if Google was owned by Russians, that's not your fault if you're on the platform. They shouldn't come after you, Pancake, because you're on that and they turn out to be Russians and they're paying you. Well, okay, if that's the law now, fine. But are you going after everybody who's owned by Google? Are you going after the not owned, but who's on the platform? Same thing with this.
Yeah.
Bezos owns his paper. Are you just going to give him a slap on the wrist or let it go and say, oh, sorry, it was a mistake? Hopefully this woman tries it again in like a month and see if it changed before the election.
Yeah,
Probably the
really.
same answer.
That's our last political one. So how about this one? Disable ad blocker.
Well, we have to do the election
good.
one. You want to do the AI one? Because
That's
I
the
thought
one that
was
I'm.
kind of
That's actually the one that I just pulled up. Mom, great Latin minds think alike,
You know,
or maybe it's just
Chris,
mother son.
it's not living up to the hype.
It's not.
Well, in all fairness, the way this is coming from Forbes, and they looked at it from a business point of view. So there's 5 things they noticed. There's limited adoption across sectors due to inflated expectations. So in other words, by February 2024, only 5.4% of firms were using AI. Why is that? Well, they got to evaluate the return on investment if they're going to adopt something like AI. And I guess they just don't see the value in it yet for what they do. Another thing is the inapplicability of generative AI. So it may not fit into their business models. Makes sense. Right now, they don't feel that it's going to increase their business enough that they should go all in on the AI. Number 3, it has minimal impact on employment. So 94.6% of the companies who are using AI show no change in their employment level. So it's not like they fired people because they got AI and they didn't need employees, but they also didn't need to add because they're getting such a benefit from the AI. And that's a good portion. Number 4, org changes, just like employment. There have been no major changes to the org. It's not like they've been able to eliminate a whole department because
Right.
AI came in and took it over. And number 5, limited use cases. Oftentimes you need a specific use for AI, and these companies are not necessarily seeing it yet.
Right.
So it has to make sense, like anything else. An AI has to be cost effective, and it just isn't. It's not there yet for businesses to say, "Oh wow, once we grasp AI, in general, once we grasp it and once we really incorporate it into our business, it's going to do all these great things, generate more revenue, cut so many expenses because it's going to be able to do multiple things." It's just not there yet for a lot of companies.
I wonder if it's that they can't do it or they can do it, but they know that if they were to lay off huge amounts of people because they don't need them anymore, you'd get crazy backlash. And also, you're kind of putting all your eggs in one basket if you do that, right? Like, let's say that AI thing ends up not working and you just got rid of your entire worker base.
Right.
It would make sense because you're definitely taking a gamble as a company. But I think until you can physically see what it does, then you can do it. But
Well, I agree too, but remember, workers are a commodity for a business or a resource for a business.
Yeah.
So it's easy to say if I get rid of these workers, but when you do cost analysis, sometimes it's cheaper to keep the people on because of the way other stuff that affect AI,
Yeah.
like tax structures and whatnot. You can't factor in the benefit to AI because if you let people go, there's costs associated with that.
Yeah.
And that goes back to that return on investment. It's not like they feel bad about letting people go. It's that it's not cost effective to replace them yet with AI. They're not
right,
seeing
AI is not going to be one of those things where you wake up the next day and all of a sudden the whole company's taken over by robots. It's going to be a gradual, hey, you're going to stay here until this AI gets better and then you're out. It might take
Right.
5 years, it might take 10 years, but yeah, you can't change an entire industry overnight, right? Or the way you run things. And you, as you said, or maybe I said, I don't even remember, but you're taking one hell of a gamble in the sense of if I was to say tomorrow AI is fantastic, all 100 of you employees, you can leave tomorrow. That doesn't,
Right.
it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Given you're always going to have someone who fixes the AI, so the robots that are broken and whatnot, that it's going to be like that for the next couple 100 years until you can have like self-healing robots or whatever, which I do think we will get to at some point, which is kind of a scary thought in itself. But
And I think
Yeah,
they've been overhyping the AI and what it's going to do.
yeah,
Not to say down the road it won't do it or it's not capable. It's just not there yet. So it's not living up to the hype. And I think that was the point of the article.
yeah. But
That
isn't
it's
it? But
yeah.
here's the way I see it. We've really only been talking about AI, like ChatGPT, for less than 2 years now. Of course, you've had AIs in the past, but not to what we have now. If we're already having articles like this 2 years in, what do you think 20 years in is going to look like? Or 50 years or 100 years? We're going to get to that point,
Yeah.
but it's not, it's going to be gradual. It's not going to be a whole um, overnight thing. But it is pretty amazing what it can do in the sense of real world translations. Like if I
Yeah.
was talking to someone in Portuguese or who is Portuguese doesn't speak any English, it just knows to translate in real time. Like that's a feat that I never thought we would get to. I thought that was just something in movies.
No, I thought we would be there. It didn't make sense to me to have these phones and not be able to say, why can't I just
Yeah.
hold it up? They speak into it, and I never have to learn babble. I don't have to learn language.
Well, that's what
They,
Neuralink was supposed to do, right? It's supposed
yeah.
to translate it in real time in your brain. And I don't know if they have that working yet, but I don't know if you ever saw the interview of the guy who had the Neuralink and he was on Rogan, right? He was the paralyzed
I
guy who
remember it. I don't know. I never saw the
I
interview.
didn't watch it all the way through, but he was talking about how it's amazing how his brain knows what it's going to do before he does it.
Okay.
He said that took a little bit of getting used to. So yeah, we're going to get to that point where if artificial intelligence doesn't take over uh, the workplace, it's going to take over the human body to make work more efficient. So that's what I think is actually more likely going to happen, just because of rights and regulations that are going to come
Oh.
as time goes on.
I don't like that idea at all. That's creepy.
Yeah, I mean, I think the next generation is going to think otherwise because that's going to be all they know, right? They're not going to. Here's a question, Mom. Right, let me ask you this. You know how we have the changing of history where people want to get rid of history, like certain parts of history, like the people that want to get
Yeah,
rid of slavery. When AI take it like 100+ years, probably like 200 realistically, do you think they're going to ban movies like iRobot?
They might.
Isn't that, yeah, that's an interesting question. Do you think they'll ban the ones that are like robots are bad and they will take over the world? Terminator?
That's what we were saying. In a true AI environment, they don't know to ban it. Unless a human programs it in to say, oh, that's not good, we need to ban it.
Yeah.
So we're back to AI will never be pure AI. It's that you always are going to have human influence. And because of that fact, I don't think it's going to live up to its true potential. Doesn't mean we're not going to have it, like you say, and it's not going to take over. But it's baloney if you tell me it's like the purest and no bias and this and that.
Yeah.
You're always going to have a bias. You can't, somebody has to create the data, the inputs, the this, the that, even if it takes off from there and does it. But whatever that foundation is what it's going to be. And I mean, I'm not a big fan of things like Neuralink unless it's to level the playing field.
Yeah,
To take
so that's
somebody
what
with
it's
a
been.
deficiency and move him up. That's a tremendous thing. To take somebody who's a genius and level him up even more or she up even more. Okay, why? They're a genius or they're really bright. Oh, but they could do so many things. So can a computer. Why do you have to do the human? Because they want to make humanoids. They don't want a pure human. They want half human, half robot. Androids, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, the
That's
healing principles we still haven't really seen yet of Neuralink, because even the guy who was wheelchair bound, and I think he still is, I don't think he's in the clear yet. I think it's at the point where he's in rehabilitation for paralysis, but I don't know where he's at. I haven't really been following that story. But yeah, I see your point, but no question. We're going to have the point where everyone's just trying to get the advantage. It's going to be like limitless.
That's always been true.
Yeah.
You're just moving into an area where it's not based on merit. It's not like you're taking the human and improving the human. You're taking the human and turning it robotic.
My question is, how do you stop kids cheating on tests when they have Neuralink in their head? And why is every kid getting a perfect score on the SAT?
Yeah. Well, and again, that's where you get to, and it's the ultimate in socialism. Everybody's the same outcome, the same everything. You dehumanize people, and I think that is the sick goal whether it's 5 years, 500 years, but that is the sick goal, to take humans out of the equation and to turn them into some sort of emotionless, robotic, same response, same outcome, same this, same that. Okay, if that's what humanity wants, but I don't go for that. I think it's very boring. But interestingly enough, they discovered in the DNA
Yeah,
sequence
we're just on the same wavelength today, Mother.
50,000 knots. And when I say G knots, I don't mean garlic knots. I mean
K
genetic knots. Okay? So we have tens of thousands of these mysterious knots in the human DNA. They call them I motifs. Usually, if we recall from DNA, you got that helix thing.
Yeah.
And what makes the ladder is you have the guanine that joins with the
Cytosine,
cytosine,
thymine,
with the
cytosine.
adenine.
Adenine. Yes.
Adenine, right? Okay, those are your nucleotides. But sometimes cytosine pairs with cytosine, and this causes a twist.
Cause autism.
Well,
I don't know.
they twist the 4 strands into 4 strands because that's that knot. They call it I motif. It's commonly found in the area of the DNA that controls gene activity.
Wow.
So interesting enough, they're wondering, could this play something with diseases and cancer? They also found some in the promoter region. And the promoter region of DNA is the area that switches activity on and off, also associated with cancer. Like what creates the cancer, genetic cancer. When your genes mutate, all of a sudden you develop cancer. So it's very early in the stages of studying this, but it's fascinating that they've come across this, and they're wondering, what does it mean for us scientifically and biomedically? What does that mean for us to have this and know where they are and start working on figuring out?
Now, would you be okay with them changing something like that? Like going in and fixing it? Or would you say that's an advantage? To make the perfect human?
Well, they're not saying that these glitches are bad. They don't know that yet. They might be good. Or maybe you have to figure out, why does the cytosine form with the cytosine? Why was it doing that? Is that the error? Right? And is that what causes whatever gene activity will subsequently happen? I don't know if they know enough about it yet. They just noticed that this happens.
Would you consider that genetic, what's it called when you can pick your genetics? Genetic interference?
Genetic interference.
What's the word I'm looking for? Genetic. I just had it in my gene editing.
Gene editing.
Yeah.
Well, they're looking at it. They're not doing anything to it. The genes are naturally doing this when they studied it. They're not causing this. Now, if they go in and think that they could fix something by editing the gene so the cytosine doesn't form with the cytosine and forms with the guanine as expected, maybe that will stop a disease. I don't know that they know that yet. They don't know that it's a negative thing, or they're not saying that in the article. All they know is it's happening. It's happening in locations where cancers are kind of showing and whatnot, but could be good for other things. Maybe it halts the cancer from getting worse or becoming multiple cancer. I don't know. Like that, we're not at the point where they know if it's a negative or a positive, these knots.
Well, we do know now it's so much easier to detect and get rid of cancers. Like they've made some serious breakthroughs in the last couple months. So
Yes.
again, hopefully this is just another one of those things that prevents cancer even more. So
Hey, as an aside, did you see the keto diet shrinks tumors in the pancreas?
yeah, that makes sense. That's basically the whole point of it.
What the hell? Yeah. I was like, man, damn.
Yeah, because
right?
you're taking out your body's
The fats and
yeah,
stuff.
it's the way your pancreas what's the word? Digests, I guess, is the right word. Processes. Thank you. Processes fats. I'm sure it helps you a lot. But yeah, I'm always a proponent of keto.
You know what else it processes?
That was a good transition. Mom is on point today with the transitions. Have Swiss scientists made a chocolate breakthrough?
Yes.
Now, hold on. Chocolate's fantastic. I didn't read this article. How can chocolate get any better? But go ahead.
It's not about the chocolate necessarily getting better. It's a different taste, but it's a good taste, according to the person who wrote the article. I've never tried it. What I didn't realize was cocoa is a fruit. The
Yeah,
cocoa fruit.
it's a weird looking fruit too. It's like a white fruit.
There's a picture of it in the article. So traditionally, they take the cocoa, they crack it open, they take the beans out, they use the cocoa beans. Yeah. They leave the rest. Okay? Now they're using the whole bean. And in the process, they don't need any sugar. Okay? The Federal Institute of Technology has been researching this. They take the juice that's left behind in the cocoa fruit, that's 14% sugar. They distilled it down to a syrup, and then they add other parts of the fruit, and they create a sweet cocoa gel, meaning the husk or whatever, the outer shell.
I got to pause
They
it
put
for
it
1
all in
second.
there.
I want to know why it took them centuries to figure out that maybe you should use the whole fruit and not just the inside.
You know why? First of all, they had an interesting point. Everybody uses the sugar, right?
Yeah.
Because the sugar industry is so subsidized that sugar's cheap.
Right.
The cocoa to do all this is very expensive right now.
Cocoa is very expensive.
Right. But the cocoa is mostly in Africa, South Africa, I think, and some other countries. It's in the article, South America. And because of child labor issues and, whatnot, the person who's developing this process is saying it's not only perfectly fine to do for chocolate, we might actually make some inroads into getting more for these countries by not just leaving behind, most of the fruit just to get the beans out. Maybe if they could do more with it, you could do some sort of economic help for them and pay them more for blah, 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 blah.
All I'm saying,
so these guys are taking it to other levels.
When it comes to chocolate, I don't give a shit how much child labor you need. Get me my goddamn chocolate.
No, that's not right.
Get me that Swiss freaking cocoa bean.
I don't believe in child labor, obviously. I would rather see children
Right.
have a happy childhood and go to school and whatnot. But keep in mind, these places don't really have schools.
Yeah.
These kids aren't doing anything,
This
and they
is all
support
they
their
have.
families doing this. So to say, oh, no more kids working, well, you better have a substitute for their families or they're going to starve, right? Which that would be better if they could come up with economic opportunities for these areas so that their kids don't have to work and they can afford schools for the kids. But culturally speaking, I mean, we live in this society where, how could a kid work? These children are born working because they have to feed, to eat.
That's
for
like
the family.
imagine living in one of those countries where your entire GDP is based on how your soccer team does.
Oh my God.
Like that's those really third world, borderline fourth world countries. I think in Africa. I think mostly in Africa, but yeah, I mean that's not good. That's how you know you're check those places for child labor. I think you're gonna see some.
Right, and too many of the third world countries, they have just one major product or very few goods, and a bad year or a war, geopolitical war, really can hurt their country, and that's how poorly set up it is. That's the kind of infrastructure we should be talking about in these third world countries, rather than just dumping money into their military and their leaders who just steal the money and the food. How do we actually go in and help these countries do more than just? So, I mean, for what it's worth, I don't mind it. I like the idea. It seems like a waste to just leave most of the fruit there and just take the beans, and to make a product where, as he said, if they weren't subsidizing sugar, this would be far cheaper than what it takes to process the sugar. But because of that, sugar's so cheap, nobody thinks to do this.
Yeah.
And in terms of what the guy, how did he describe it? It says in the article, I think he said it's a very good taste. He likes it. It has like he called it a pineapple-y sweetness to it, mixed with the nice dark chocolate flavor. And the author really liked it. I wouldn't mind trying one.
He's
to
too
see.
deep. Too deep.
Well, yeah.
It would be such. I'm looking at the picture of the chocolate factory. If I was in there, they'd kick me out so fast. It would be like, Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, where Augustus Gloop falls in the chocolate river. That 100% would be me. They'd be like, God damn, we gotta shut the whole factory down. This kid's polluted everything. That's really
See
cool.
some pretty mad Oompa Loompas.
Yeah, speaking of people who cut out sugar, this is the guy that won the internet. Nick Avocado shocks millions with 2-year weight loss secret journey.
Nice segue.
This is a guy that he won. He just won the internet.
Yeah.
We've talked about him when we first started the podcast, when we were like just figuring out how to do the news and stuff. So
Yep.
Nick Avocado was the guy that started the mukbang genre, which is basically where people just eat, and he was just getting so overweight.
Yeah.
So yesterday he posts a video and he's super skinny. What this guy did was absolutely genius. He backlogged his videos for 2 years, but he would post them and record them as if it was that day. So,
Oh, wow.
so every week he would come out with a video being like, today is June 12th, when he was really recording it because he was purposely getting fat. So, but realistically, he was doing a mukbang a day. Like he must have been if he was banging out that many recordings. So he uploaded every week, making people think that he was really heavy. And other YouTubers were in on it because they would go visit him and be like, hey, you got to stop. This is not healthy. And he really was super overweight. He was killing himself. And a lot of YouTubers were scared he was going to die. So he backlogged these eating videos for 2 years. And then he goes, hey, guess what? Like literally, Mom, a week ago, heavy. Then the next day, he posts this video and he's skinny. And everyone's like, what? So
for 2 years he's been losing weight. In other words, or he never put the weight.
It took him 7 months, he says. Okay. And I believe that. I mean, to make that drastic of a change, I mean, you have to. But he claims that it's the best social experiment he's ever done. But Mom, like, I don't think people realize how deep this goes. He did a documentary about how heavy he was and how how off the rails he went. And he kind of purposely made himself the joke of the internet. Everyone was ripping on him like you're being a bad influence to people as a kid. And I was one of them. I said, hey, it's terrible what you're doing, because as someone who is into the fitness industry to a certain extent, it was terrible. Like, he started a whole genre of people that were just slowly killing themselves. And I'm not saying that he was like someone was going to figure it out someday to do eating videos. So I'm not really saying like he's the cause, but he was definitely one of the bigger people on the platform. You know, the biggest people in that mukbang category of YouTube is the Philippines. A lot of Asian people are big into that. And they eat some weird shit. Like, you'll just see them eating an octopus live. You're like, what the hell? But so he backlogged this. There was a documentary of how heavy he was getting that other YouTubers were doing. Like, this is his downfall, blah, blah, blah. And I guess they were in on it because that means that they would have had to backlog their videos as well. Yeah. So this was, if what he says is true about the social experiment, it might be one of the greatest social experiments in history, truthfully.
I'm surprised nobody posted anything who knew him, who said he's not heavy.
I think he did a great job staying out of the limelight. Like, he's one of those YouTubers that's just big enough where if you saw him on the street, maybe someone will notice you, but also big enough that he still has a massive impact on YouTube. He's kind of in that perfect fame level.
Yeah, I don't know him walking down the street, but you would think a friend who knew what he was doing or somebody would have posted something saying, hey, by the way, I know a secret. He's not that heavy.
Yeah, I'm sure. But also, if you look at him now, like, those two don't even look like the same person. Like, if I saw him on the street, I'd be like, what the hell? So, I mean, props to him. Not just for the weight loss, but the fact that you got dragged through the mud willingly for 2 years and made probably the biggest comeback is insane. Like, good for you, man. That's wild. So, but to also, I've thought of doing something like this, but I just know how big of a project it is to tackle. If you were to fake upload first off, imagine eating crazy amounts every day. Like, you're going to get fat, but how are you not having some serious health issues? So he must have planned somehow. I don't know how often he posts, but let's say it's once a week. Let's just say it's once a week.
But he started heavy, right? The podcast started heavy.
Yeah, he was known for those, so he really went off the rails. He started as a vlogger, and then his content changed to eating videos. So he's been around for a long time. He's been on.
But he wasn't heavy when he started.
No,
was he heavy?
He wasn't. He's got without going into the details of the first half of his career, just normal dude doing vlogs and started getting a following, and then after that, then the heaviness started piling on. Okay. And I would say he was heavy for about 6 years, and then. So I forget what happened 2 years ago. I forget what actually set it off, but because of that,
COVID maybe?
No, this was before COVID, but something. Oh, maybe it was during COVID. I won't go back into the history. I just don't remember it. But essentially,
Jesus.
everyone went after him about like how unhealthy you are. This is dangerous. You're
Right.
promoting bad things. And then it just turned out to be this crazy social experiment, kind of like Super
Yeah.
Size Me. It's like reverse
Yeah.
Super Size Me, the documentary. So
Interesting,
yeah, I mean, I gotta give a round of applause to him for that one. Like that's impressive, Nick, to be able to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, speaking of comebacks, Dr. Disrespect. So
Oh, this guy, I swear.
he came back yesterday, or no, 2 days ago, with his
Yes.
first comeback stream. Now, I watched his comeback video. It's an 18-minute speech. I wasn't going to make you watch the 18 minutes, but there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
So,
I read the article.
oh, you did? Okay. So, okay, I don't even know where to really start with this one. But
He did something. He says it wasn't that bad. It never went too far. Bad, like everybody makes mistakes, and you guys are just coming after me now. And that's basically the gist of what he's saying.
So
You guys are coming after me, and you don't even know the situation, you didn't even know the person. Blah blah blah. Okay.
Maybe I don't know if maybe this article's bringing it up in a different manner, but the actual video of him talking about it, it's more so about how Twitch really effed up. And maybe he is putting the blame on Twitch a little too much in the sense of you still did something wrong. He's saying that it was not a minor. I only said that because that's what I was kind of told to say by PR team, just to sweep it under the rug or whatever. But that's kind of besides the point. It's more so the fact that this was supposed to be undisclosed. It was settled and never supposed to be talked about again. And Twitch clearly did not abide by those rules because they have people who talked about it openly when they weren't supposed to. And my answer to that, which people are probably saying, well, he must have did something bad if it got settled. And my answer is, if it was that bad, you don't really settle over something like that. You would be in jail if you were doing something with a minor, right? So I think there's a lot of transcript stuff that
But I think he did admit to saying something to a minor.
yeah,
He did admit
yeah, I guess so. And I guess it was, or something that one of the mysteries was it actually a minor, or was it someone pretending to be a minor? Because if you pretend to be a minor and you say certain things and then they end up not actually being a minor, there's different rules and regulations behind that.
Well,
Because you're technically not actually talking to a
he
minor.
confessed that the allegations were true.
That was a couple of months ago.
Yeah, but was it with an individual minor back in 2017? Yes. Were there real intentions behind these messages? Absolutely not. They were casual, mutual, sometimes leaned too much in the direction of being inappropriate, but nothing more.
And what does that mean? That, again, to this day, we're going to want to see those DMs, those whispers, as they call it on Twitch. But he can't release those because they're probably under court law and stuff like that, right? It's considered evidence, I guess, so you can't show that. It's one of those things that'll probably come out 5 years from now or something like that when what's it called when you're protected by the law after a certain amount of time?
Statute of limitations.
Statute of limitations, thank you. And one of the things that is interesting, though, to me, and I think a couple other people have mentioned this, is like, if it was that bad, you wouldn't settle, right? You would, with the company, you would settle with that person, I guess, if they brought it up. But there's still too much behind the scenes for us to really know what happened. But he comes back yesterday and does this video how he's talking about basically what happened. And my answer is, you can't come back like that without all the evidence of proof. And he came with evidence in the sense of what he read. The way he said it, I'm trying to put it into words, but you can't lie in that situation. Like, there's too much evidence out there that you're saying that is definitely provable. Like, if what he says about Twitch is true, which what I'm saying is you wouldn't go live and talk about it if it wasn't true and have documentation and examples where he talks about people that should have been banned because they broke terms and services of Twitch and then ended up getting multi-million-dollar deals, which, again, I don't agree with what Dr. Disrespect did, but yeah, he is bringing up good points about people that did things that they shouldn't have on Twitch and didn't get banned. So
Right.
there's definitely a biasy there with Twitch. They clearly didn't like him for some reason, and it sounds like his community partner manager wasn't very good to him either. So it's
Right.
he definitely was getting kicked in the face as he was climbing up a uphill battle. But that doesn't excuse what you did. So
Right. I mean, I
if it's
understand what his
true, again, it's
side did.
alleged.
Right. It's well, no, he's saying it's true. He's saying these things are true.
He's saying it's true. Well, and then in the video yesterday, he said it's not true. It's kind of a weird whatever. But
Well, maybe in many ways he has made it worse.
I think his
And
first tweet made it worse. What he did yesterday kind of cleared up a lot and seemed very true. My only, I don't want to say problem with it, is the fact that we don't have enough information yet to say what the actual thing was that happened. Because let me ask you this: if he claims that he was just talking to a fan and it got a little out of hand, I guess, but then he says no, they were of majority, they were the age of consent or whatever. So now the story's a little flip flopped. But one thing that he can prove is all the Twitch stuff, the TOS stuff of the people that broke the same rule, well, different rules that had the same consequences, and they didn't get banned. So to a lot of people's points, again, I'm trying to really condense my thoughts here, but there's a lot to unpack, as I said. But to everyone's point who doesn't like him anymore, which again makes sense, you are basically saying, yeah, I did this, but these people over here did something bad and they didn't get punished, so why am I getting punished? And I don't think that's the answer either of how you're
no,
coming back to
he's
me.
trying to make it sound like this is a vendetta against him from Twitch because of their business situation.
Which I do think that is true.
Right?
I do believe that.
Right. And he's pissed because they're using this to make him look bad when there was an agreement that it wasn't going to be used at all and it was no big deal and blah blah blah. You know, I do agree from what he's saying, but I still go back to you screwed up. You know, you're not supposed to do that stuff. What you originally said made sense. He didn't know she was a minor, whatever. Or the person was a minor, whatever. Well, now we're not sure that that's even true. Okay? He's trying to fess up, but he's doing it in an obtuse way. And at this point, he should just focus more on the why, I just don't think it's right for them to be using
Right.
this when the person involved, and I believe he said this in the article, they didn't make a big deal out of it.
Yeah, so that's where
Nobody was harmed in the sense that nobody sued me, no parent was upset, there was no harm to claim that I did something wrong or that
Right.
I harmed somebody. I shouldn't have done what I did, blah 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 blah. Having said that, he's kind of digging himself in deeper and deeper and deeper for something that he should probably just let it go.
Yeah, but here's why. This is the part that confuses me, and this is why I'm still very curious. And I think we're gonna get an answer from Twitch, which I don't. Truth be told, I don't trust Twitch as an Amazon company. I've heard a lot of things about their executives there that.
Oh, the
I
ones
would.
that tell you to vote for Kamala Harris, but not for.
Oh, that's Amazon. But no, I've heard things about the actual Twitch executives from
Oh.
people that I know that deal with them that they're not very. They're basically very immature children who run that place. But you didn't hear that from me, everyone. With this, if he did do it, which again, I'm not saying he didn't, but I would think that settling with Twitch doesn't make sense. I would think more investigations would be done from a law of authoritative picture, like the county judicial system would go through that. I don't know why Twitch is the end all be all for something like that.
Well, and that's okay. The reason why, as you know, sometimes you do something that may or may not be legal, but the platform you're on has their own standards.
Sure.
So you could jeopardize your position just by reaching out to the minor, even though you didn't. There's no crime or whatever. And if you have an agreement with them, they could say, just the mere fact that you did that, we could pull you or whatever. Okay. So maybe you didn't commit a crime, maybe whatever, but you make us look bad because of your actions.
So
there
that's
may
why
be-
they settled.
Right. There could be something contractually that says, yeah, I do feel based on this whole, what I know of it so far, I don't need to see what was exchanged between them. That's a separate issue, right?
But
What
Mom, you
he's
don't
talking
think?
about-
Okay, I pause real fast. So just because I don't want to lose the thought. So you don't think that if it was that bad, like actually talking to a minor, whatever he was doing with the minor, you don't think that Twitch would go, "Hey, you did this. We're going to authorities."
They're supposed to, and
But
I'm
they
assuming
didn't.
that
And that's why something there doesn't make sense to me on why they settled. So that's why I don't believe that there will be enough information there to actually say that he did this.
well, I mean, then he shouldn't have said that he did something. I think he's just trying to say it wasn't that bad. It wasn't something that went to the authorities. It wasn't blah, 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 blah. But they're using it as a form of, I'll say, blackmail against him now because he's had some bad experiences with them on a business level, and they're coming back at him with something that was settled a while ago and was not a big deal. Okay?
Right.
It's a disgruntled boss situation, and if it was something very inappropriate, you're right. Twitch by now would have posted it, or somebody out there would have gotten it and posted it if it was really that bad.
Right.
My guess is it's not that bad, but it's still by the standard of a lot of these
Right.
other things going on, it was probably a mistake on his part, and he admits to saying it was a mistake. But it's a separate issue, and now it's a question of, from a business standpoint and a legal standpoint, can they now come back and give him a hard time? Can he countersue and say this was settled, has nothing to do with my agreement with you?
I do believe he's going to make a lot of money off Twitch. I think whether you like him or not, I think he wins that settlement by a mile because of how, if you broke that term and condition, which it seems like they do because these no-name Twitch employees all of a sudden know about it, that's how you know that someone at Twitch effed up. They broke their disclosure. So, yeah, I think he's going to make a lot of money off Twitch, whether you like him or hate him. So.
Yeah. And regardless of what he did, but at that point, somebody's going to leak what was said, and maybe for that reason, it's not that bad. So he might win this case,
Yeah. All right, last one that we have. Mom picked this one. I didn't even pick this one. PlayStation to shut down new game Concord 2 weeks after launch. Will refund players. Take notes, Activision. They're actually giving money back. Go ahead. So what
697 concurrent players when they started it. They're down to 30 current in the game players. So there's not enough players to create the teams. Apparently it's a team base. What do you call it?
I think it's like a 6v6 or something like that.
Yeah. So they're going to get full refunds.
So
They apologize. They appreciate that everybody, stuck it out, and it just didn't get the traction. And they're taking the loss, taking the L.
So Concord. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's it. Go ahead.
Concord is a very interesting. I'll give PlayStation credit in the sense of the willingness to shut down a game that quickly because it's not doing well. They don't want to take the loss, and they don't want to take a bigger loss, is what I should say.
Yeah.
The problem with Concord was that it was mediocre, and there's plenty of mediocre games out there that do pretty well. I really don't know why. I really don't know why they shut it down so quickly. And the only thing that I can think of is the fact that PlayStation's games, because of the acquisitions that Xbox has been doing, they can't afford to take big losses. I really think that's it. I think the second a game doesn't do well, they have to shut it down. That's truthfully how I think this played out.
Well, I think the nature of this game, it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't have enough people on the platform, you can't form the teams.
Yeah.
So unless they had an explosion of people and instead the trajectory was going down, 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 and you can't. The game by its design wouldn't work without teams.
Well, truth be told, I think it was a beta that ended up they were just in beta testing. So I guess even the beta didn't do very well. I don't think the full game even released. I could be wrong on that, but I don't know what that is.
I thought it did because they're refunding everybody's money.
Yeah, I
PlayStation
guess.
something,
I,
yeah.
I don't know. This was one of those games I really didn't pay attention to because it's a PlayStation exclusive, and this is just going to show that the exclusives are a bad idea now. You can't be making exclusives because so many people have PCs and Xboxes now.
No, it's a PC game. It says PC.
Is it? Let me see.
Yeah. The
This
team-based
is
first
how
person
this is how little I know about this freaking.
team-based first-person shooter game is reported to have drawn a historically small audience during its initial availability across PlayStation 5 and PC, with third-party PC-based gaming data website SteamDB showing 30 current. At its peak, they had 697 concurrent players.
Is it still not? Damn. Concord servers have officially shut down. Oh, so they shut it down yesterday. That's why it's not on. Wow, that's kind of a shame, to be honest. Like, that was quick to drop that quick, but it was essentially kind of a. Again, it's a. There's definitely worse games I've seen than Concord, no question about it, that still have working servers. So that's why I'm kind of surprised that someone like Sony's PlayStation shut it down so quickly. I don't know. This is kind of a stumper because
You need 2 teams of 5 members each. So with so few people playing it, matchup availability became very difficult to come by during gameplay. So unless you saw like a massive number of people joining to create these teams, it wasn't going to work. And as fewer more, it was going down, down, down. It's inevitable. You can't even play the game if you don't have enough people.
yeah, I bet you if they made it free to play, people would play it. That's the difference. Concord is estimated to have only sold 25,000 units at $40. So it's a $39.99 game, which is pretty expensive for a game that is mediocre at best. So again, if you made it cheaper, Sony, it probably would have done pretty well. Like a lot of these companies now are going towards that free to play and then buy in-game things, and it works very well, which probably should have been what you did. But yeah, that's an interesting one. I didn't think it would shut down so fast. So
Well, I guess they didn't want to bleed any more money out of it, you know. If they
yeah,
kept
the
giving
server
it out.
space. I bet you the server space is what costs the most.
Yeah, the article didn't go into that much of it, other than say it was done as of September 6th.
Yeah. Well, let's see real fast. What do you think their budget? Oops. I could just look it up for you guys.
Someone's gonna bark in a minute. I just forewarn you.
Puppet? What's
I don't know.
Concord?
He's got up. He's been sitting around a lot today. I was cleaning the workout room out, so he didn't have much activity today, unfortunately. We didn't do any PT or anything.
So they spent 100 to 200 million on it. So to shut down a 100 to 200 million dollar game that quickly is not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess they just couldn't afford the loss. Sony's in a bad place right now.
Yeah.
There's really no question about it. So.
Yep.
All
I
right,
agree.
Mom. Well, I'll let you go since you got to take the dog out, I guess. So,
I don't, but he's gonna cut loose on me because he's down here with me.
Oh.
Nobody's here. Mike, Dad's probably all the way upstairs. Oh wait, he's sitting. Okay, a little bit better, but
all right. I mean, we don't have much else to talk about anyway. So, the only things I have to promote. Oh, go ahead.
we got the debate on the 10th.
Yes, which we will be
Right.
watching 3 days from now.
We're in election season. Vote early if you're in an area where you can, and yeah, let's get ready for an exciting fall. I think it's going to be a busy one.
Oh, you mean a shit show? That's really it. You mean shit show?
Shit show.
My
Keep
mom's
moving with the
my
shit
mom's
show.
excited for the chaos. She just doesn't want to say it.
No, I don't want any chaos. Chaos frustrates me because it shouldn't be chaotic.
Yeah.
It should be a very
Truthfully.
simple process. And
Yeah. All right. So the only things I have to promote is on Saturday. So when we're recording this, I posted the Escape Simulator collab that I did with Jason. So go check that out. The podcast for last week. Yeah, I didn't post too much because of timing. So this week it's going to be a couple more videos because we're starting the walkthrough for Black Myth Wukong. That'll take a couple weeks to get out all the episodes, but we'll get those out pretty quickly. And yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. We'll figure it out. I got a couple videos queued up. So social media, promo codes, stream links, Discord down below. podcast schedule is going to be a little weird because we were just talking before the podcast started about going home. So we might, I don't know if one of these weeks we'll probably miss a podcast, but we'll figure it out. So, yeah, we might just do the live one at the end of the month rather than beginning of the month. And hopefully by then the internet will be fixed. So I'm happy. But yeah, so social media, promo code, stream links, Discord, and hopefully we will see you guys next week. And I will see you guys at stream and in the next video. So peace.